Hello and welcome to Cutting Edge, a programme made by Sheffield Hallam University students for Sheffield Live. I'm Amy Smith.
And I'm Harriet Little. On today's show, new schemes are put in place to prevent future flooding in South Yorkshire.
And we've been to the Peak District to see how businesses are responding to the climate change crisis. Flooding throughout South Yorkshire at the end of last year affected thousands of homes and businesses.
But unlike previous years, Sheffield was largely unaffected. Our reporter Ellie Mae Morris went to find out more.
The River Don near Meadowhall, a few weeks after the flood, was still damaged with trees and branches throughout the water due to the 1 month's worth of rainfall that fell in just one day. South Yorkshire suffered terribly throughout the county, and the aftermath showed just this. Climate change experts discussed the damage that was caused.
Well, in financial terms, estimates are somewhere between 80 and 120 million. In social cost, I believe there's 1,400 people who lived in Fish Lake, but there's also the cost that's been picked up by the people in Parkgate, the retail area in Rotherham. I've no idea, but the government's only giving them £1,000 each. So,
despite the river levels rising considerably and the water that was hitting the surface was getting deeper, Sheffield city centre was left untouched. People were left wondering why this was, as all of the surrounding areas were horrendously affected with over 64 millimetres of rainfall. So the question everyone wanted to know is, why didn't this rain stay in the centre and where did it go?
I believe that the 20 million that we've spent on flood resilience since the 2012 floods have got a significant part to play in that, because the level of rainfall was higher this time than it was last time, so you'd kind of expect it to be worse. I think it was a little bit further down the watercourse, so it was more on Rotherham and Doncaster than right up in the Peak District, so that might have helped a little bit, but those flood defences were very close. They only just protected us.
Sheffield city centre are putting more and more precautions in place for future flooding, such as walls, microparks and planters. With Sheffield now developing all of these different flood defences, including the flowering water storages, these aim to reduce the likelihood of this flooding happening again. With the water collected in these, it will then send to nearby rivers and streams, taking it away from major areas. This is Ellie Mae Morris reporting for Cutting Edge.
We're joined now by Beth McIntyre, who was stranded at Sheffield Arena. So Beth, can you tell us briefly what happened?
Yeah, I was making my way to Sheffield Arena when it started raining really, really bad. We were originally going to get a tram, and every time we were looking at like updates from the trams, they were saying that some weren't on, or like there was warnings, or like different routes for all of them. So we thought, well, best bet would be get a taxi. So what's usually a 20-minute journey, it took us an hour and a half to get there, just because of how bad the rain was. All of the traffic started to build up across Sheffield, and it took us so long to get there. When we got there, we were late to the show, but we did get there in the end, but it was a task.
Were you given like regular updates on travel and how to get there and stuff?
I mean, the public transport did give updates as to like what would be on and stuff, but we didn't want to risk it, like get there and it not come and things like that. And in regards to the show, we weren't really given any updates at all.
Do you feel like the venue were prepared for the floods?
I think they were. Like, there was stewards and stuff to help guide people and like get them into where they were meant to be, and like if people were late because of the floods, then they were kind of on form with that. But so yeah, I guess they were.
How did you get home after the show?
Well, when we left the show, they were giving out leaflets that were written by the police to guide us, like what best route would be to get home and like what roads to not take and stuff like that. But we were planning on getting a tram home, so we went to Centre Entertainment to wait for one, but there wasn't a tram for 3 hours, and we didn't want to get a taxi home. Well, no taxis were going to actually be coming in, and the police were guiding all traffic away from that area.
Has it put you off using public transport?
Not as a whole, but definitely in extreme weather conditions, yeah.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Climate change is a never-ending discussion and a worldwide crisis. Many people are becoming more cautious about how their actions are affecting the environment.
I went out to visit a local business in the Peak District to find out if we're doing enough as a region to tackle climate change.
Climate justice! Now!
Climate change is the defining issue of today. However, many people feel we're not doing enough to tackle the issue. The Peak District is one of 8 national parks that has recently been affected by record levels of rain. This caused severe amounts of flooding, leading to a climate change emergency being declared. The recent report from scientists states that the world needs to reduce their carbon emissions dramatically by 2030 to avoid seeing catastrophic environmental disasters.
The UN urges people to live by the phrase, think global, act local, taking responsibility in their own cities and communities. However, are local businesses in the region doing enough to combat this issue?
Hidden in the Peak District, Hoe Grange Holidays is doing their bit for the environment. 85% of the site is powered by their very own wind turbines and solar panels. They also encourage local trading, ensuring suppliers are in a 15-mile radius. The farm follows eco-principles, using conservation grazing techniques and minimal use of artificial fertilisers.
When we opened in 2006, we had no idea of the journey that we were going to go on, but we joined the Peak District Environmental Quality Mark, which is a great scheme which covers all sorts of green issues, and we had self-funding to do that and the help, and they came to do an audit on what we were doing currently with the green issues, and we found out that we were doing more than enough to qualify, and since that we've been encouraged and grown with the Environmental Quality Mark scheme and worked with other like-minded businesses who are also doing sustainable tourism, which is great. We're also members of the Green Tourism Business Scheme, again, which is another audited process which looks at all your issues.
Schemes such as these enable local businesses to do their bit for the environment, promoting greener ways for businesses to operate. However, is this enough?
As a region, I think we could do more to improve sustainability. Sustainable tourism is a very niche market at the moment, and I think that could be much more expanded.
I'm Harriet Little, reporting for Cutting Edge.
Now it's time for some more news around Sheffield.
Bus and tram prices are set to rise. Stagecoach, TM Travel and First South Yorkshire, as well as tram services, have increased their fare by between 20p and 50p. The biggest increase will affect users who buy the monthly City Bus Saver ticket.
Sheffield's branding as the outdoor city continues to bring in huge amounts of talent and money to the region. Outdoor activities have increased, with many locals getting involved. The council has pledged to promote the wonders of Sheffield, scrapping its association with the industrial decline.
Sheffield Hallam University is planning a £300 million revamp of its campuses. The work will take up to 20 years to complete.
In recent years, the creative scene in Sheffield has increased, with programmes and projects being introduced throughout the city.
The national average of employment within the creative industries is at 4%. Sheffield's figure is almost double that at 7.2%.
I went out to investigate. Art, music, fashion, cinema. Sheffield's creative hub has it all. More and more opportunities are becoming available to budding artists, and independent creative businesses can be found all over the city. One of these being APG Works. An old cutlery factory, the studio is now home to a wide variety of services, such as screen printing, picture framing, a gallery space and a shop. I spoke to the owner of this 15-year-old establishment about what makes Sheffield such a unique city for artists.
Sheffield's well-known kind of epithet of being the biggest village in England does have a certain kind of truth. People are very well connected individually with other artists. There's a strong sense of community here, and people know other people practicing, and there's a sense that people give support to other practitioners rather than kind of compete too much with them, so that the scene in Sheffield is quite a cooperative one, everybody kind of working towards the creative scene here.
A project that reflects this cooperation of Sheffield's creatives is Steel Yard. A homage to Sheffield's steel past, Steel Yard is a hub of converted shipping containers filled with independent businesses that bring together retail, film, music and food. Another project that brings creative talent together is The Bank. Run by Sheffield Theatres, it will be a creative space to support a cohort of local producers, directors and writers. But are there enough creative opportunities in Sheffield?
I think there are more and more opportunities coming up, but there's always room for manoeuvre and for more. We know that the creativity in this city is incredible. There's so many people who are doing it, who are making work on a national scale and international scale. There are there's more work to be done, I think it's fair to say, to think about how we do it as a whole city and how we lobby for further support. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities, but there's definitely more to come.
So watch this space. Sheffield, the new place to be for creatives. I'm Amy Smith, reporting for Cutting Edge. We are now joined by Saul Brown, who works at Steel Yard. Can you tell us a bit about what Steel Yard is?
So Steel Yard is a brand new urban venue in Kelham Island in Sheffield. It consists of 56 shipping containers over 2 floors, and it's going to be bringing the likes of tattoo parlours, sort of yoga spaces, plus Urban Pizza there already. So Urban are the ones that are already doing the massive screens inside sort of commune. They're hoping to be like the largest venue to have an outdoor screen in the UK. They'll be sort of covering sort of the sort of sports side of things over the summer.
What's unique about this project?
So obviously not many places in Sheffield currently have 56 shipping containers that we're going to convert into a brand new space. There are sort of existing things in Sheffield already, such as Peddler Market, which happens sort of the first Friday and Saturday every month. They sort of bring like food sort of stalls and stuff like that, and we're basically bring every aspect of the things like from Peddler and Commune, bring that into a brand new space using shipping containers. A good comparison would be sort of the likes of Spark in York or Box Park. We're doing quite a similar thing, but nowhere else in Sheffield has facilities to do so. We've got lots of plans and lots of things that we're going to bring into place to make it the brand new, hip and cool environment that we hope.
Isn't it going to be hard for businesses to survive in the current climate?
So businesses will always struggle in the current climate, obviously with the likes of the recession that hit quite badly, and obviously the fall of the high street. Local big names are sort of like slowly dropping off. However, we've seen a massive increase in sort of like the urban sort of artisan scene. Obviously loads of food stalls, food trucks, things like that, vendors, and people are willing to put money into these things from what we've seen. So bringing a space with all these things together can be a beneficial thing for the economy and for Sheffield.
Also, why Sheffield?
So we've chosen to focus on Sheffield itself because we wanted a venue that sort of hosts all the things that Sheffield can bring to offer. So Sheffield has a massive historic scene in the steel industry and has many buildings around Kelham Island which have been all converted into warehouse conversions, bars, restaurants, pubs, that sort of thing. So we've sort of brought in the rustic feel of the area to sort of host the scene. So a lot of places are doing it already, but we think it's very sort of commercial and very modern, and we're sort of trying to bring back the sort of rustic roots to make it a place that everyone sort of wants to go to, rather than just sort of keeping it as like a higher majority of people higher earning.
And what do you think is the future of Sheffield's creative scene?
So I think Sheffield itself has massive potential and massive area for growth for the creative scene. We've seen the likes of DJs coming here, like big names, things like that. We're hosting sort of art exhibitions, everything to do with sort of the area. We're obviously focusing on sort of things in Kelham Island. So Kelham Island is getting lots of financial input as well from the government. There's lots of buildings going up in the city centre. I mean, Sheffield itself is quite a cool and sort of hip place. Has sort of the largest student retention as well after people finishing university. Which is pretty big. So obviously there's quite a youthful population here, and we're trying to sort of bring those things together. So I think the scene is going to grow massively. More and more venues are popping up, more and more things are happening. There's more events, more shows, everything like that, and it's only going to get busier and busier with the better transport links that are being brought into place.
Video games are developing at such a fast rate that there needs to be somewhere to store all the rich history.
That's where places like National Video Game Museum in Sheffield come in. It holds over 60 games dating back 50 years. Our reporter Steph Raxworthy went to find out more.
It is like you have stepped into a time capsule and ended up in the 70s. This is the beauty of a video game museum. It is a place to reminisce on all the games you have forgotten about from the past. Games like Sonic the Hedgehog, Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. But what's the idea behind a video game museum?
Video games are a really culturally rich medium, even though they're quite new. You know, there's so much kind of history there already, even though they've been around since, like, you know, the 50s maybe. So the Video Game Museum is just designed to kind of collect all that stuff and exhibit all that stuff and interpret all that stuff and just kind of, you know, share that history with the general public.
Taking a trip down memory lane, these three friends pick up the controllers and continue from where they last left off.
I feel like it's a really great place to come because it's got loads of old games from like my childhood and it brings back so many memories, so yeah.
It's the fact that there's a video game museum here. I didn't know it existed until about a couple of months ago, something like that, and the idea of being able to play video games I think is brilliant, and for people to be able to see what the older video games used to be like.
I think the fact that everything's different in here, there's lots of arcadey games, but there's also stuff like this where it aims at disabled people, and also a lot of history.
Video games are different to other mediums as they develop at such a fast rate that games that came out 20 years ago seem old and dated. For instance, the Nintendo Wii came out in 2006, yet seems such a blast from the past. Although video games are targeted in the media, this hasn't affected this museum that's had over 20,000 visitors in just a couple of months.
You know, there is a lot of kind of, you know, overblown kind of stigma around this kind of, you know, video games being hyper dangerous, super addictive, you know. It's not necessarily the case. Oftentimes these kind of, you know, examples are overblown, a bit of a satanic panic, if you will. I think we just need to demystify what video games are.
It's not all about being sat down. Sometimes you have to get up and shake off the negativity. This is Steph Raxworthy reporting for Cutting Edge.
That game reminds me of when I got a Nintendo Wii for Christmas.
Oh my god, same, yeah. I remember Mario Kart, I were absolutely rubbish at that. I were really good on the DS, but rubbish on the Wii.
Oh, honestly, I used to love the Wii. I used to play Pac-Man as well. That was
yeah,
good.
that was so good.
At Christmas time as well,
yeah.
that was fun.
What were your favourite game?
I'd probably say Mario Kart. How about you?
Cooking Mama on the DS,
oh,
definitely. Definitely. Now that's all we've got time for in today's programme.
Tune in next week when there will be another group of Sheffield Hallam students that will be hosting the show.
Goodbye.
Bye.